Okay, good morning everybody and welcome to this meeting of the Education, Skills and Culture Scrutiny Committee on the 2nd of September 2021. Just to make you aware, this meeting today is being recorded. Can I also welcome any members of the public and press to today's meeting? Can I ask kindly you observe the meeting and you observe only and do not speak or participate. Can I please remind you all to switch off your phones or to switch them to silence for the duration of the meeting. In addition, can I refer you to the protocols for remote meetings which have been discussed and circulated previously. Your microphone should be switched to mute unless you're speaking. Should you wish to ask a question or make a comment, can you please indicate either via chat or by the phone, by the function of raising your electronic hands in the Teams app. And I'll assume that you've read the paperwork before us today prior to the meeting. Please only use the chat function to indicate that you wish to speak as an alternative to the electronic hand or to raise any technical issues that you're having with the meeting. When asking a question, can you please indicate the page number, if appropriate, you are referring to? The first item on the agenda is to do a roll call. I'm Councillor Sonia Reynolds. I'm the chair and I'm present. I'll now call on Charlotte, Democratic Services Officer, to take the roll call. Charlotte.
Thank you, Chair. I've marked you as present. So if I move to Councillor Rydian Maisen.
Yes, present. No, Charlotte, present, yeah.
Councillor Matthew Crowley.
Yes, present, Charlotte.
Councillor Sean Harris. No. I've had apologies from Councillor Jane Jones. Councillor Dennis Keogh.
Present, Charlotte.
Councillor Sandra Miller.
Present, Charlotte.
Councillor Marcia Spooner. Rebecca Phillips.
Presennol, present.
I've had apologies from Councillor Mark Prothero. Councillor Suzanne Renkes. Councillor Anthony Richards.
Present, present, Charlotte.
Councillor Dave Whitelock.
Present, thank you, Charlotte.
Rob Wood.
Present.
Councillor Joe Hale.
Present. Sorry, present.
Thank you. I've also had apologies from the co-opted members Marie Caddick, Roberto De Benedictis, Adam Amor and Linda Newman. So if I move to Cabinet members, Councillor Alan Lockyer.
Present, Charlotte.
Councillor Peter Rees.
I think Peter's been substituted today, is he?
Correct. Councillor Peter Rees sent his apologies. He's been substituted in Cabinet Board by Councillor Leanne Jones, Deputy Leader.
There we are, thank you for that. I will mark Councillor Leanne Jones as present. Andrew Thomas, is he here?
No, Charlotte.
Chris Millis.
Yes, thank you, Charlotte.
Ian Guy.
Present, Charlotte.
Burge.
Good morning, present.
Helen Lewis.
Present.
Julie Merrifield.
Good morning, present.
Amy Davis.
Present, Charlotte.
Rhiannon Crowhurst.
Present, Charlotte.
Yeah, and I think that's everyone. Have I missed anyone else?
I think Kath Gilbert is trying to get into this meeting. It looks like she's maybe having problems getting in.
There we are. I'll mark her as present then and we'll try and get her in the background. There we are, Chair. I think that's everyone.
Can I say as well that Suzanne Renkes will probably submit her apologies. I believe it's her brother-in-law's funeral today.
Right, okay, apologies for that. Yeah, I'll mark her as apologies.
In addition to that, Charlotte, Ian Guy is in the meeting.
I him as present.
And I don't believe that Deputy Leader Councillor Leanne Jones is present in this meeting. I think she's just joining us in the Cabinet Board.
Right, okay, no worries, thank you.
Thank you.
There we are, Chair, that's it.
Thank you, Charlotte. In that case, if we move on to Chair's announcements, the committee has chosen to only scrutinise the admissions and capacity in schools report on the scrutiny agenda. The committee has agreed not to scrutinise the appointment of local authority governor representatives on the Cabinet Board papers. So can I ask all those present for declarations of interest, please, in relation to the items that we are going to scrutinise? I'm going to do it by a general call round. So if I ask people to raise their electronic hand, if they have an interest in this, I suspect most of us are governors of schools that would be named in the report. So we will need to. So can you raise your electronic hand, please?
Chair, if you just bear with me just 2 seconds while I just make a
Certainly.
note of those members. Two seconds. There we are. Yeah, Chair, I've got them all. Thank you. What I'll do is I'll send members a declaration document after the meeting.
Can you drop your hands then, please? Right. Thank you. And therefore we move on to the minutes, and it's the minutes of the 22nd of July 2021, which are for approval. And we need to, sorry, I keep getting the messages up that confuse me, that indicate that Kath Gilbert is still in the wrong meeting, Charlotte. Yes, so could I ask if there are any particular questions on that? We know that there is an item that we asked for further information on those minutes, which the officers have not been able to get us that information yet, and that will be circulated to us in the next few days. So that we can move past. But can we have a proposer to approve the minutes, please?
I move, Chair.
And a seconder?
Second, Chair.
Thank you. Okay, in that case, if we move on to admission capacity in schools and that report. This report was requested from scrutiny members. Can I ask officers whether they wish to make comments on this, although all members will have read the papers, but John, I assume it's you who are going to present this. So have you got any further information you'd like to make available prior to us moving on to questions?
Morning, Chair, morning, members. Thanks for the invite this morning. You are right, this is a report that was requested as part of the Forward Work Programme by members of the Scrutiny Committee. The report speaks for itself. It was a report regarding capacity in schools, relating to, and specifically relating to, first and second choice that parents and pupils ask for when they make the admissions application. Just to point out one or two things really from the report, and you're right, you've read it, and I'll be open to questions. But today is the first day of the new school academic year, and it's worth pointing out that the capacity changes on a daily basis. So nearly every school, I think, in fact, every school is on an inset day today, although it's the first day of term. Some schools go back tomorrow, but the majority go back on Monday. So the figures that you see today in the report are not what the figures will be on Monday. We know experience tells us a lot of children, despite being given the admissions approval to attend school on the first day of term, which we would have provided several months ago now, will not turn up on Monday. They would have made other arrangements. They may have gone elsewhere. So I provide the figures in Appendix A with a health warning that anybody seeing these and will see an overcapacity and undercapacity in a particular school, that it's not necessarily, if a new application comes in, say next week, that although it's showing a capacity, we may well be full in that school. It changes on a daily basis. That's the sort of the health warning I'd like to make there. But in principle, it was a short request that members asked for regarding first and second choice. You know, the good news is that well over 98% of the applications received their first choice, and everybody received first and second choice, which is quite a success. There is no measurement across Wales. We don't benchmark this. We can only give you our discussions that we have around Wales with other colleagues, and we know that that's quite a high percentage. So I can't give you actual figures of how they're doing up in Wrexham or Denbighshire or anything, because it's not published, but we do know from speaking to other authorities, especially other neighbouring authorities, that the first choice rate is quite significantly high for Neath Talbot, which is good. Other than that, Chair, I'll throw it open to questions if you have any.
Thank you, John. In that case, I have several questions that have been pre-notified, and I'm sure there may be others that arise from those. So if I move first to Councillor Rob Wood.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks, John, for that. On page 10 of agenda item 5, it is stated that there are 1,352 pupils in total at Ysgol Bagland School. Can you please tell me how many pupils are actually enrolled at the school, please?
I'm hoping Helen's on the line and she's going to give you that actual figure, but just to make that a little bit more expanse for you, the figures in Appendix A are only for statutory school age pupils as part of the admissions policy. It only relates to statutory pupils. So what needs to be added in, if you were looking for the full capacity of the school, are nursery children, and of course YBB has got an LSE unit, has got a unit attached to it as well. So they are not included in those figures. But I'm hoping to answer your question, which is how many children effectively are in the school. I'm hoping Helen, who's just turned her camera on, is going to be able to answer that for us.
Hi. On the figures, we don't include the nursery, and currently we've got 51 nursery pupils that are due to start this on Monday, and we've got 118 planned places. So those figures would be on top of the mainstream that we've already added.
Chair, if I can come back, please.
Certainly, Rob.
Right. Firstly, I think that members wanted this report to see how full our schools are, because we are asked to feed into local development plans and things. When I see the report had 1,352, and being a governor of that particular school, know that the figure is at least 180 pupils more, I thought it was quite wrong to give us those lower figures without specifically stating in the report that they were excluding ALN pupils and excluding nursery pupils. I mean, if I was a fire officer doing a health and safety report for the school, I wouldn't differentiate between those pupils with additional learning needs and nursery pupils. I would want to know the full figures of that in the report. And I feel it's hard for us as members of this committee to understand how full the schools are if we're given, in this case, a figure of at least 170 less than who is actually at the school. I mean, you know, I just find it a bit strange that, you know, we are being fed figures that are not accurate because, you know, there's a disclaimer that you've just said, but that wasn't in the report. And I just feel a bit cheated in a way that we're not having the accurate figures as members of the committee. Thank you.
If I could come back then, Chair.
Certainly, John.
Well, firstly, apologies, Councillor Wood. There's no intention within the report to mislead members in any way. I understand what you're saying about a fire safety report. I can accept that, but the report is linked to admissions. It's an admissions for, say, the LSE is not subject to the admissions policy. The figures you've got are 100% accurate. in relation to statutory age pupils through the admissions process, which Helen has responsibility for. And the question was in relating to first and second choice. Well, LSE children, for example, don't get a choice in that respect because it's part of the statutory process through the SEN system. So if we inflated the figures by, say, another 180, it gives parents the potential. It potentially gives parents the impression that there are 180 positions there that are not there for selection through the admissions process. Does that make sense? There's certainly no intention to mislead.
Can I, before you come back, Rob, I think what this is, it makes clear is that we need to be more informed about what we're asking for as a committee in terms of the numbers. And I understand the issue that Councillor Wood, and we all do, I'm sure, that Councillor Wood is making, but perhaps it would be useful to have some advice as to how we could get a clearer picture of the position in our schools related to total capacity as opposed to just to the formal admissions process. John, would that be possible?
I think what Councillor Wood is asking for really is how many children in each school. I think that's what you may be asking, is it? Rather than linking it to the admission system. They different answers to different questions. You are right, Councillor Reynolds. But what we've got here is the admissions, and it's quite a statutory process. But I think speaking to you now and listening to your question, I think what you really want then is how many children in each school, how many bodies have we got in each school, is it?
John, I think that's what we wanted as a committee. We wanted to know how many people were in the schools and whether the schools were over capacity, under capacity. We didn't really want this sort of, moving around the chairs and sort of showing, perhaps this is how many get admitted. Because, I mean, we want to know how many pupils are in the schools, whether the schools need perhaps more money to expand, because otherwise we have got to look at building housing and making land appropriate to build houses on when schools are full. I mean, this is what we wanted. We didn't want a specific policy and how it works. We wanted to know if our schools were full to capacity or not.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the forward work plan, and it does ask for the report on first and second choice. So I wonder then maybe there is something lost in translation there then, and we can only apologise for that, but that's the report has been provided on the understanding that what members were asking for is first and second choice.
That's not what was asked for in the committee. I was there.
Okay.
I think there's been an interpretation between our discussions on forward work plan and what's actually gone in the forward work plan, and what that means is that we need to, as a committee and as committee members, take a closer look at our forward work plan on a regular basis and be sure that what is in there does describe what we want to know and what we're looking for as a committee. So because between us and our discussions and what officers get is an interpretation process, and that's where things has gone wrong, I think, here slightly. Can we ask John and other officers whether it would be possible to give a fuller picture of what the of the numbers of children in school? We understand that that's an ever-changing situation, but I think councillors are concerned because our local development plan is coming up for discussion, and there are some big developments possible in different areas, that they have a clear view as to what the schooling situation is across the borough. Would that be possible?
We can certainly provide numbers of head count of children in each school. That's something we can do. And if we kick it down the road for a couple of weeks or a month or so, we'll have a better and more accurate picture than we do today. Because as I said right at the beginning of the introduction, we don't know how many of these children are going to turn up on Monday. And what I'm trying to say is September is always a month that's fluid without figures. So if we come back, say, in a month or so, we'll be able to provide you with these new figures, and they'll be far more accurate.
Chair, may I step in?
Yes, Chris, sorry.
Yeah, thank you. If I use page 10 as an example and we look at Llangatu community, the officers have given the information that there's a capacity of 1,169 and it's 402 below that. What we can do is add a column of nursery and add a column of sort of special units next to that, and that will give you an overall total looking across. That's not a problem.
Can I ask Councillor Wood if he feels that would address the issue?
If it gives an accurate number of how many pupils are actually present at the school, then yes.
Thank you very much, Chris, for that offer, and we'll look forward to that. And could it be circulated to all members when you have it available?
Certainly, that's not a problem. There will be a health notice to it as well, because obviously the figures that we give you will be date specific. So in nursery, for example, some schools take nursery children each week. Some start after a birthday. And in a looked after sort of a unit, it's the capacity of the unit, which could be under capacity. But we can work out those figures for you, so you'll know bums on seats.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that. Thank you, officers. Councillor Keogh, you'd indicated during that you wanted to make a comment, but your hand's gone down. Do you still want to?
Thank you, Chair. It was only to say, and Chris has answered the question by adding 2 more columns to the spreadsheet. You know, is that and then we can see then the total capacity of the school. At the end of it. Because we did say earlier on, I'm going to say with that new development taken on Aberarthun Beach, which we passed on Tuesday, the 137 houses going in there. I'm not saying all will have children in there, but we're right next door to Towin School. So the Sandfields councillors would need to know, the capacity of that school, assuming some of these pupils come from that estate once it's built. But thank you anyway, and Chris has answered my question. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Keogh. Vice Chair, Councillor Mizzen.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, it's an easier one for you, John. Right, on page 7, it says there were 2 successful appeals. Now, I'd imagine, so the appeals, these children then would go to the first or the second choice, whatever they wanted to, I suppose. They'd find places for them, would we?
Yes, yeah, even if that meant that we would go over capacity in those particular schools, the independent panel that sat and heard on those cases, whatever the cases were relating to, made a decision with all of the information, such as the capacity figure for the school, that it would be the right thing for those children to be admitted to the school. So yes.
Fine. Thank you, John.
Thank you. And then we move on to Councillor Sandra Miller.
The only thing I wanted to bring up, Chair, was the element of the questions that were previously put into the mix, when questions were asked for in advance, that those questions be notified to all members of the committee and the answers given to all members of the committee. We can't have the thing of some people knowing one lot of information and others knowing something different. So that's all my question related to, Chair.
Thank you. Charlotte, you wanted to say something on that?
Yes, Chair, just as mentioned earlier, just to let all members know, any questions that are sent in advance are always raised in the meeting, and officers will always respond to those questions anyway. So just to ensure members that there are no other questions that are asked, in the background, and answers asked in the background. So just to reassure members on that point.
Thank you. I have a pre-notified question from our co-opted member, Roberto Benedictus, who's unable to attend the meeting today, and I believe it's extremely detailed, and I suspect that officers may not be able to answer in the meeting in detail, but I'm going to read through what he's sent in. And he's talking in terms of this admission capacity and how the calculation of student places in schools has been calculated and generated. And he says, for example, is it based on the overall area of school buildings, the cleaning area of schools, or the size of classrooms, or all three? What are the class sizes in all the schools on the list? Now, that's a big ask, and I'm very aware that's a big ask. And the teaching numbers in each of the schools. Now, if officers would like to make comment on that, and any possibility of what can be answered and in what form.
I'll step in on this one, Chair, if that's okay. I think because of the detail of the question, I'm not sure if all of the questions are actually relevant to this document and they sit outside it. So we're going to need time to go through each one. When we come up with the answer for him, we'll send that into you so all members see the answers where we can get the answer from. We can't always answer every question because there may not be an answer. A school has that independent approach to, how many children in each classroom, depending on the size of the classroom. I've taught in a class of 48 and I've taught in a class of 21. But overall, there's 250 children in the school. So we'll have to have some time to look at that by contacting each school. And of course, when we give you that information, the next day it's out of date because of nursery numbers and looked after children and movers in and out. So we will do our best to answer those questions.
Thank you, Chris. And I think it would be good perhaps to check with Mr. Benedictus whether he's what the purpose of the question might be, so that it could be a bit clearer. There may be other easier ways of addressing those issues.
Yes, I'll ask John to contact Rob directly and we can make sure that the answers, when generated, get given to you as a committee.
Thank you. Is everybody on the committee all right with that? Right. Thank you. I have no further hands showing and no further submitted questions. So this paper is for noting. We will be expecting further information, and it may be that we wish to raise that at a future meeting. So when we come to the forward look, Rob, and I'm looking at you, it might be appropriate to identify a date for any further consideration should it be needed on capacity issues, overall capacity issues in schools. So I'm going to move on then. We have chosen not to do pre-decision scrutiny on the Cabinet papers. So we won't be moving to the Cabinet agenda. There is only the one item for that, and that's the appointment of local authority governor representatives, and it's uncontentious and not appropriate scrutiny. And we'll be therefore looking at the forward work programme. As you'll see, we now have forward work programme for a number of committees, and our next item in October we'll be looking at the youth and community activity and curriculum reform. Has anybody got any comments they wish to make on the forward look?
Chair, I just think following the discussion earlier that we may bring that report back with the additional information at a future date, depending on what the committee's wishes are.
Right. Well, perhaps, I mean, we could put something in for November, just for, given that we have possible space there, and then we can move forward. I would like, if possible, in November or the new year, to have officers consider a further update on childcare capacity in the borough. I think in relation to the pandemic and my awareness of what's happened in some parts of that sector, it would be good to have a consideration of where we stand, having gone through the first term, if that was possible. Yes, Chris.
Yeah, that will be possible, Chair. If I could ask Charlotte to contact Hayley Lurvy under the new portfolios for the 3 heads of service, that comes under Hayley now.
Yeah, of course.
Thank you. I think with the 30-hour offer, it's, you know, and things still going on, it is really pertinent. And given that we know that, you know, we've had some issues in terms of flying start and disadvantaged families, it's a real concern moving forward for our education service and for admissions into nurseries going forward. So yes, if there's nothing else on the forward look, then we have no urgent items. And in that case, it just falls to me to close the meeting. Cabinet Board will follow. And if I could ask Charlotte, could you send me a link for Cabinet Board? The one I have is for 2 o'clock.
Yeah, no worries. I'll invite you in now.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Bye.